Hello, horror fans. Today I've got a seriously creepy story for you that deserve your full attention. But before we dive in, I want to invite you to join our little dark corner on this YouTube channel where I post content about horror stories and various creepypastas, and every now and then a surprise or two. Now get comfortable, turn off the lights if you dare, and let's get to it. Hope you enjoy. Everything was blurry. I tried to lift my head, feeling hot liquid trickle down my forehead. The sound of the ambulance siren resonated deep inside me like a bass note. I had the taste of blood in my mouth, and the cool night air slipped through the cracks of the twisted metal, embracing me. I mumbled something, reaching for her in the passenger seat. I touched her hand, tried to say her name, but no sound came from my lips. My blurred vision focused on her eyes. I saw fragments of her blood-spattered face and her jaw, twisted unnaturally, jutting out. My heart raced, my voice broke. Mustering all my strength, I pushed her, looking for any reaction, anything. When the dizziness passed, I was met with the emptiness that had filled her once lively, smiling eyes, as if she had seen something incomprehensible. And thinking about it now, she had. She saw what we all still have to see in its purest, most primal form: death, which had veiled her gaze without mercy. When I emerged from my meditative state, a distorted voice cut through the static noise. "How far will you flee from your temple? Weptria calls to you." I gasped. The voice was familiar. It wandered in my brain like a clean signal on a broken radio. I was trapped between unwanted wakefulness and the deadly sleep that called itself insomnia, haunted by that night and tormented by the recurring sound of shattered glass and the screech of the metal chassis becoming a man-made tomb. I hunched over on the edge of the bed, grabbing my phone. It was 3 a.m, and I hadn't slept a wink. I got up as best I could and forced myself to keep my plans, meeting a friend for coffee. At least, I needed the coffee more than the company. The company was merely a side effect. I avoided mirrors. I had lost my identity, and my appearance no longer mattered. Every time I looked into one, I was absorbed into an infinite cycle of catastrophe, a distorted image of dark, disheveled hair, bloodshot eyes, and dark circles, and that horrible recent scar that ran across my face like lightning across a beige sky. Outside was overcast, matching my look. I avoided any form of transportation, but not walking. On foot, I felt safe. The city buzzed as always. Sirens, people coming and going along the sidewalks. I wore earplugs to muffle the deafening environment. I pulled up my hood and looked straight ahead, just enough to see where I was going and dodge people, but not enough to meet anyone's gaze or what I was starting to see lately. Upon reaching the cafe, I took a glance before entering, waiting until I saw the back of Rowan's black hair and that horrible blue shirt he always wears. I went in and heard the hum of a television. When the anxiety subsided, I stopped and noticed the people around me with their mouths open, staring at the screen, almost motionless. Had the world stopped, or was it the insomnia? No, it was reality with its horrors. The TV showed a crowd of journalists at a press conference with officials spouting nonsense. "The public has a question. Is it a serial killer?" The official leaned toward the podium. "At this time, we don't know." The sea of journalists went wild, and they tried to calm them. "What we do know is that the victims are killed in threes, and the arrangement of the bodies suggests a possible ritualistic nature." A journalist interjected, "Who is in danger? Who is the target?" The official turned to other agents, as if seeking support. All the victims were comatose patients. The journalists stirred, and the official, dodging more questions, showed a diagram. "To protect the identities of the victims, our forensic experts have recreated a symbol. If anyone has information about this image, please contact us." Static noise filled my ears and my body trembled. An intricate web, built in a central spiral, spreading outward with chaotic and disturbing hooks, woven from the victim's flesh. Even in the detailed drawing, it writhed and groaned. A voice pierced through my being. "The river of blood overflows the rim of your cup." I pulled away from the screen and realized everyone in the cafe was staring at me. Their eyes were torn from their sockets. Their jaws hung slack. A trickle of blood ran down their foreheads. I was sweating, and my pulse spiked. Their voices became a murmur. "Will you accept your cup, or will it consume you?" I felt a hand on my shoulder and sighed. It was Rowan. He looked normal, well, better than me. He offered me a steaming cup of coffee. "Ezra, are you okay? "You look terrible. Maybe you should get some sun, take a vacation. You've always wanted to go to those mountains," he said gently, adjusting his thick-rimmed glasses and giving me a kind smile that contrasted with his dark skin. I tried to clear my mind from the time-lapse and followed him to the table. He studied me as I sat across from him, clutching my coffee like there was no other in the world. The heat anchored me. "Have you slept?" he asked. I snorted, took off the lid, and looked inside. The coffee was black, simple, just how I like it. I took a good sip, looked at its bottom, and saw blood bubbles rising to the surface. Instead of sinking, I looked up at Rowan, put the lid back on, and took another sip. Pleasant, medium roast, smooth, with a slight bitterness that kept me present. He told me about a support group for people with trauma and said I should go sometime. I cleared my throat. "I have a doctor's appointment in an hour." He looked for signs that I might be lying. I knew that look, but my insomnia made any statement sound false. I was very aware of my tired eyes and tense shoulders. He broke the silence. "I can drive you." I was blunt. "No cars." "As it's been a year." His eyes narrowed and his voice softened. "It wasn't your fault." I stared at him, looking for something more than pity. He pitied me, and that was obvious. "Uh-huh." I looked toward the door. He caught my sudden impatience. "Look, I won't keep you. If you want to go, don't stay out of politeness. I'll come by tomorrow to see you." He drank his caramel latte. His face began to distort into something inhuman. A strange crackling echoed in my ears. His eyes spilled from their sockets. A resonant voice pierced my being, but Rowan's lips didn't move. "Here, in my crypt, you are trapped, a fly with broken wings trying to escape. But you, Ezra, will never leave my arms, because you are my burden, and mine alone." The coffee in my cup began to spill, dripping blood over my hands. The surroundings rippled like circles in water, nothing but desolation and ruins. Rowan was no longer Rowan. He was a fused corpse holding a coffee cup. I panicked, shot up from the table, and spilled the coffee. Black roots surged before me, twisting and intertwining into a crackling portal, the entrance throbbing. It emitted a low hum. There it was again. The insomnia, the interval, the mountain gorge. I ran desperately, hearing Rowan scream at me from everywhere, but I couldn't see him. As I passed through the portal, I emerged onto a busy street and bumped into several people who got angry and cursed my name. I sobbed. I needed to get back to my apartment. There I could take refuge from the insomnia and return to reality. My legs pounded the pavement, the air felt dense and heavy, the sky darkened to a terrifying indigo. An insistent whisper pierced the space around me, distorting buildings and streets into strange, alien landscapes. Swirling clouds came, as if thick fog blanketed the entire city. I looked back and saw it, an unfathomable gaze absorbing every gram of my sanity. A tinted third eye, tilted on the side, with a violet glow cutting through the fog. It spoke to me in overlapping, strange tongues from a great distance. My muscles tensed, but my movements were slow. I froze and couldn't run fast enough. As I scanned the city with my eyes, I knew I was filtering again through the threads of its weaving. I saw my house and unleashed what strength I had left to reach the lobby. I ran up the stairs, feeling myself jerked from side to side until I crashed against my apartment door and collapsed on the tile floor. "Ezra, your kingdom is crumbling, and your people, with their mockery and suspicious looks?" Ezra. I snapped my eyes open, gasping for air. My head and hands were bloody. Consciousness returned, and I stood up. Had I been asleep, or had I fallen and hit my head? The throbbing pain confirmed the latter, and, gasping, I leaned against the door. The bloodstain on my hands terrified me, thinking of what I might have done. But when I saw a small puddle of blood in front of me, I exhaled in relief. In it was etched with absolute precision the symbol. I felt an icy foam emanating from its internal intertwinings, as if a purity were woven into its pattern, sending slow pulses that roared in my brain. In a burst of lucidity, I wiped it away with my sleeve and trembled. I knew I was on the edge. It seemed that at any moment I could jump and plunge completely into the depths of that psychosis, never to surface for air, letting it carry me to an eternal rest. I felt weak and sick. I dragged myself to the bathroom, turned on the shower, and undressed. I stood under the water, letting it wash away the blood and filth that seemed to seep from my pores. Maybe it would cleanse me of this nightmare. But who am I kidding? I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling and shooing away flies. My eyes burned. After taking several bottles of sleeping pills with coffee, I didn't know if I was asleep or awake. Illogical. Maybe, but it was all I could bear. Truth is, I didn't know how long it had been since I saw Rowan or since I left my apartment. I don't know how, but I felt safe there. Safe from the insomnia, safe from what had been stalking me for months. Just stepping into the outside world was enough, and yet, I felt it in my head, probing, as if trying to drag me into its dimension. A knock on the door made me sit up, disheveled. I didn't know if it was day or night, because whether the sun or moon came out, all I saw was an indigo haze. I didn't dare look outside, knowing it was looking for an entrance. I slid across the wooden floor, avoiding the creaky boards I knew by heart, so I wouldn't feel obligated to open it. I heard its voice, and for a moment I was comforted by its compassionate tone. I don't want to pressure you, Ez, but I really think you should try talking to a psychiatrist. I can't imagine what you're going through. It paused. Listen, after what happened at the cafe yesterday, I'm really worried about you. It was like you weren't there. I looked down the hall, seeing the light under the door dim. The color changed. Rowan was gone. What was knocking wasn't him. Thick blood seeped through the cracks, and slippery bandages wrapped around the door. Its voice came to me. Dragged by the deluge, the void trembles, waiting and longing for your return home. Kneel and sing to them. I felt the blood touch my feet and backed away, leaving footprints all over the floor until I jumped into the bathtub. My chest pounded hard, I couldn't breathe. I turned on the faucet, cleaning the blood from my legs, rubbing and rubbing until the dissonant whisper stopped. I thought about what Rowan had said about the day before. That couldn't be. I'd been here for weeks. Going back to the living room, I looked at the empty food cans, confirming my suspicions. I'd stopped needing to eat 2 weeks ago, and the number of cans confirmed it. I moved away from the kitchen and heard voices on the other side of the wall. My neighbor was listening to his gadget again, and every time it turned on, my unplugged TV lit up the room with moving shadows and disjointed chatter. The same two again. Welcome back to Series Talk. We're Emily and Sophia. We're talking about the Weaver, the alleged serial killer making headlines, known for his strange ritual murders. The comatose victims. I don't buy it, Sophia said. How do they get to the crime scenes? The Weaver couldn't have dragged them all. Do you think the authorities are hiding something from us? Emily asked. As always, Sophia confirmed. One viewer proposed a theory, wondering if the Weaver is real, suggesting the victims wake up, meet, and commit ritual suicide. Sophia laughed. If comatose patients suddenly wake up and start mutilating their own skin, we've all seen the leaked photos. How can they join pieces of their own skin before bleeding out? The pattern at each scene is the same, and it's always finished, Emily added. Sophia's shadow leaned in, and her hand rose. Tell me, how is that possible? We're talking about a killer obsessed with detail and surgical precision. It doesn't matter if the comatose patients survive after tearing off their skin. The killer is there to weave the symbol. It means something. But what? Emily flipped through pages of what could only be a notebook. No one knows. Some suggest it could be an obscure religious or cult group. But so far, nothing has come out. We're still waiting for some hospital leak confirming the comatose patients leave on their own. Sophia sighed, leaning forward with evident disgust. For now, all we can do is consider the possibility that our Weaver is a doctor or other staff with access to the victims. And even then, there are no records. My TV crackled and the broadcast cut out. Amidst the static, the symbol spun. I started seeing the victims, lying on their sides, forming a circle, their heads at each other's feet, fine cuts on their skin stretched and joined. A black, shiny liquid pulsed between the intertwinings of flesh, buzzing at me. It was painted before my eyes like a macabre portrait, the fresh scent of lacquer I could smell. I collapsed to the floor, trying to shake off that horror. And then its voice came to me. "Open the gates of Weptria." My temples throbbed. I moved my head, trying to shake off the noise. "Open the gates." I crawled to the coffee table, setting out the utensils to make coffee. I was compelled. It seemed like the only thing that drove away its voice and let me concentrate. I grabbed the package of the finest coffee money could buy. Those lustrous beans glowed with a violet hue, unique to their origin, smuggled in without scruples. Harvested in the mountains of Weptria, a place that had etched itself into my soul since my last visit, where I tasted the best cup of coffee. The omniscient brew was, without a doubt, the smoothest and most exquisite cup any palate could ever taste. There was a reason those beans were so coveted by many coffee enthusiasts. The thought calmed my mind and induced a state of relaxation. Preparing the divine cup was a meditation. I ground the beans to a medium size, placed a thick, pointed filter on top of the hourglass-shaped glass flask, and slowly poured boiled, purified water over the ground coffee. I waited patiently for the nectar to drip into the lower part of the flask. The buzzing and clicking of flies swarming around the cans increased, irritating my senses. I looked up at the counter, watching the flies collide. Light filtered through the kitchen window curtains, absorbing the flies. Each one turned to liquid. A voice said, "You rot in your filth, hiding your decaying body. Let the flies lead me to you. You too are just waste." I removed the filter and grabbed the flask, backing away to avoid its light, which tried to pull me out of the apartment. I didn't know what it wanted from me. I thought it would disappear if I held out long enough, showing I wasn't worth its time. But whatever it was, it showed me it could pursue me for centuries. I feared never resting and dying from lack of sleep. Maybe then it would win. I wasn't sure. My hands trembled, but I drank the steaming coffee with its creamy foam. That calmed my nerves and my racing heart. And when the flies disappeared, I was left without company. No absolute stimulus to keep me at bay when I was about to succumb to its bait. Coffee was my only solace, and I knew it would soon run out. I watched the small indigo flash scanning the surroundings. Its resonant voice reached me, shaking the entire apartment. "Come, behold the temple of your homeland and renounce the claim that it is its own. Or do you prefer to hide until you stop breathing?" All that noise welled up from the cracks in the floor. "Open the gates, transcend. Open the gates." They sounded desperate, pleading in a hum. I heard their fingernails scratching from below, tearing the moldy wood. Their gaunt figures sprang from the floor, gasping and moaning. When I saw her among their ranks and death devouring the integrity of her bodily shell, I shuddered. Guilt flooded me. She too spoke, not pleading, but ordering. The point is, I began to feel how the strings of my compassion vibrated in unison with their pain and pleas for mercy. I felt the same way. That being that had trapped me like prey, mocking me. It does the same to every victim. It was among them, screaming at me, begging me, "Open the gates, it has come." I analyzed the coffee left in the flask. Its dark purple foam swirled. Maybe I'd finally gone mad. But what about the coffee? Could it contain its control over me? Its ability to cross the boundaries of my apartment despite its deterioration? Then the mountains of Weptria called to me, soothing me, singing to me. I could plunge completely into the insomnia and save them all, free them from the weaver's clutches. The beans, which had absorbed the nutrients of Weptria, strengthened my miserable body and gave me the chance to escape its grip. In a panic, I crawled to the flask and poured its contents onto the floor, fearing it wouldn't work. But I was terribly wrong. It was effective. The luxurious coffee formed a bubbling portal, an entrance, a gateway into the depths of insomnia. Its fog burst into my apartment, and I plunged into it, feeling the liquid essence penetrate every pore of my body. When I emerged, the dimension grew colder, steeped in vibrant, dark tones, and others that emitted a psychedelic presence. I was at the bottom of a great gorge, between towering mountains that spun in spectrums of blue. I knew that this was at once reality and insomnia, intertwined. I felt a moment of freedom leaving my apartment without giving it the chance to pursue me. But I knew I was walking on its threads and stitches. Surely it would feel it. I'd feel it on the back of my neck like an impending doom. I saw roots twisting into corpses holding cups filled with blood. I pushed my way through them, their hands filled, spilling blood onto the earth, creating an unstable platform to walk on, sinking my bare feet into its bloody entrails. They led me to the base of the mountain, and an ornate grotto opened through a terrace of shifting colors. I parted the wet vines to inhale the dense smell of wet wood. I heard a creak as I approached a wooden door, pushed it open, and entered swirling tunnels. The weaver's creaking reached me as I crossed the smooth, shiny limestone staircase. "You have reached the temple. With what intention have you come?" I cannot predict every micro-movement nor absorb every torrent of another useless neuron, but with an exquisite desire for destruction towards you, Ezra, I savor it. You are blind and hungry, trapped in a place you cannot comprehend. Can you truly trust what you see, knowing your own mind has fed you nothing but deception your entire pathetic existence? The climb was immense, or at least it seemed so. The walls were monstrous, seeming to twist with every step. I felt the weaver pursuing me, but as I kept walking, I saw flashes of them forming from the walls, drawing me in, showing me the way. I saw a huge threshold as I emerged onto a flat floor. My feet dragged over an intricate prismatic mosaic. I couldn't stop looking, running my fingers over the grandiose spiral columns that supported the upper rotunda, adorned with a surreal fresco of amorphous and geometric anomalies. I approached a statue of a robed woman. Her hands held a large cup. The third eye opened again as I approached, and I could no longer control my actions. My eyes locked onto the void surrounding her forehead as I knelt before the statue. "Ezra, you must die before you can live again." My brain pressed against my skull, and a throbbing pain tormented me. The stone screeched, and her hands tilted, pouring blood from the cup over me until I stopped breathing. My lungs were about to burst until I managed to distinguish that I had been released. I gasped, inhaling air, feeling a cold current pass through and envelop me. I opened my eyes and was in the lobby, in the temple, up whose stairs I had climbed. I looked around and staggered forward into the treacherous temple of Weptria. A black void gleamed. Something moved through the gloom. Something that had spoken to me, pursued me, interweaving between worlds, gliding toward me with ease. Its tall, sinewy body seemed human at first, but when darkness filled its empty sockets and an open third eye moved in the blackness, it terrified every fiber of my being. Wrapped in chaotic bandages around its head and body, with loose, light robes, it took a barefoot step toward me. Its veins pulsed beneath its pale skin. I saw its lips curl into a diabolical smile as it distorted toward me. The weaver's mantra spun in my head like an eternal siren. With every beat of the threads you twist, trying to escape so bravely. But what makes you believe you are free from the dictates of the wet mass of matter in this miserable prison of bone, convincing yourself that it is you who controls? How can you run across the earth that belongs to me without losing your wings? I ran, unable to calm my ragged breathing. I moved through the winding hallways, hearing it mock me as I tried to decipher its manipulations. The temple surrendered to its true master. I still had yet to discover what it sought and why I was there. Why did I decide to dive headfirst into the lion's den? There, I had no control, no power. I had submitted to insomnia, and it was trying to devour me alive. They too were part of the weaver. They manipulated me with threads, a puppet dancing without a fundamental understanding of the truth. Your struggle weakens, your corpse decomposes. Ezra, here you will become part of me, submitting to what you do not know, but seek. I turned around, reaching a dark, damp sanctuary. Indigo light flowed along the walls, reflecting off the kneeling benches. I approached slowly, studying the source of light. Kneeling, People wrapped in bandages, soaked in a bitter caustic liquid, kept their hands together in prayer. They had a perfectly drilled hole in their foreheads from which light emanated. Chants cascaded through the space as I approached the center aisle between the rows of pews. In the fractal patterns of the sanctuary wall, I saw the light opening different perspectives of people mutilating themselves, creating the symbol with intertwines of their own flesh joined to others. Ezra. I jumped, spinning around, and saw the weaver in front of me. The bounds of the temple are infinite. All who worship have sacrificed themselves to eternity. I kept backing away, watching its forehead begin to ooze a crimson liquid, staining its pale form. Something sprouted from the top of its skull. 2 long, hooked appendages grew, and the creature increased in size, covering itself in a red mucus. When the sharp tips of its appendages touched the ground, its tone deepened. You wish to find yourself in your elevated form, beyond truth and lie. The weaver loomed over a humanoid form, but stopping at the height of its torso, it looked like a decaying corpse. It approached me with slow, deliberate movements. The humanoid's legs moved in time with its horrible, gangly arms. Ezra, judgment awaits you. Surrender to me, and I will serve you as you have served me. Kneel before me and give in. Then this temple will be yours, and the entrails of Weptria will be within your reach. The weaver tilted its faceless head, drawing closer to me. I didn't know why I wasn't fleeing. I couldn't or didn't want to. Perhaps I had brought myself to this place seeking redemption for what I had done. But whatever reason I convinced myself with was just a hallucination, feeding my own delusion to make me crave more. Not even my own detachment and suffering could help me understand it. It was prophetic and liberating. When the weaver stood before me, I trembled, falling to my knees with a silent sob. Insomnia must be mine. I knew it better than my own reality. I opened my arms, and the weaver raised its sharp appendage and plunged it into the center of my forehead, piercing it. Blood poured down my face. My eyes, spattered with blood, saw its open eye open on its head, and it lifted me. Blood dripped from my toes and soaked my clothes. Its abomination disappeared, and its ugly appearance became familiar, enveloping me completely. I gasped, waking up disheveled. A warm hand touched mine, and beeping invaded my eardrums. "Hey, Ez, it's okay. I'm here." I squinted, seeing his comforting face as my vision returned. I touched his face, his glasses, and he laughed. My voice trembled. "Just checking you're real. Real doesn't seem like it. Glad you're back. The doctors weren't sure when you'd wake up from the coma." I wiggled my toes, feeling the hospital sheet and looking at the IV. "Is she alive?" I felt the anxiety grow in my stomach as my eyes searched for his silent answer. He seemed uncomfortable. "Who?" he asked. "Are you kidding me?" I couldn't believe my ears. "Don't do this to me. Not now." He shook his head, adopting a neutral tone. "Ez, I'm going to call the doctors." "Tell me, Ro," I demanded. He leaned back. "They said that since your brain is trying to fill in memory gaps about the incident, you might mention things that never existed. You know, mixing real with imagined." I squinted. "What?" "There was no one else, Ezra. You were alone in the car. I don't know who you're talking about, but when I got there, they said it was just you." My whole body shuddered. I sat up and felt nauseous. "And the weaver?" He looked bewildered. "What? The serial killer?" "Ez, what the hell does that have to do with anything?" Rowan tried to comfort me, though he was as bewildered as I was. "Hey, calm down." I pulled away and got out of bed, ripping out the IV. He stood up, and I raised my hands. "Just stay away from me." "Okay." He stopped, shrugging in defeat, but still looked genuinely concerned. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door. I could barely breathe. Through the cracks, blood wet my feet, and bandages wrapped around me. I looked in the mirror and wiped away the steam. Then I heard it filter through my flesh. "You will never escape me. I am only part of your reality. And did you ask your child self? Am I just the fruit of your sick, infected brain piece, or am I the vigilant torture you will never escape?" The mirror shattered, and the weaver thrust its appendages through it. Its eye opened to fix on me. "Do what you have been called to do, because this is your people and this is your kingdom." I blinked, and it was gone. But when I looked back in the mirror, it showed me that unfathomable gaze, the abyss of ink opening in the center of my forehead